material. So she was asked by the government, Italian government, to host these children who were actually living in the slums of Italy, and they were very disadvantaged children. So she was asked, and she took that opportunity and created her very first Montessori classroom in Rome, Italy. So the very first school was actually in 1907. And so Dr. Maria Montessori really believed in respecting children. Her philosophy, the biggest one that she really believed in, was fostering independence, that children, if they're given that opportunity to really learn on their own and given the opportunity to succeed, as long as a teacher or a parent really taught them, they could actually take it further than most people tend to believe. So a lot of her philosophy is based on observation, as well as finding those sensitive periods for a child. So, children actually are more sensitive during certain parts of their learning, and just trying to find those sensitive periods. So sensitive period order, finding the right time for even toilet learning, finding that right time for when they're really interested in certain things, such as like learning their numbers or learning their alphabet. Sometimes we like to say that children like spine fits. Well, it's because it's during that sensitive period that children really are able to learn a lot quicker and faster if you're more in tune with it. So there is a lot of scientific basis based on teaching her philosophy. She also believed in following the whole child. So that means social, emotional, academically, physically. We really follow the whole child. It's not really just, focusing on just the academics or the spiritual needs of the child or the social, emotional piece of it. We really follow the whole child. And a lot of the Montessori training kind of goes into a deeper dive of that and how to really observe a child, unbiased way of doing it. And so kind of leads into the next part of the philosophy of individualized learning. So with that said, a lot of the individualized learning is based off of following the child's path and knowing what they are really interested in learning. Like I'd mentioned before, you're wanting to observe the child based off of what their interests are, what their needs are. And it's kind of like a scientific, scientific study. You're basically a fly on the wall trying to see what the needs of all the children are in the classroom. And a lot of it is writing it down and documenting a lot of it. So, you're not having to remember everything. A lot of it is documenting. So again, like I mentioned, the Montessori training does go into a deeper dive of how to do that. She also believed in process over product. So I know a lot of what I grew up with in my own experience as a student. My mom always wanted to see that A or see the B or see the D or whatever it was. She didn't want to see a D, but wanted to see the grade. But it's not always about the end product. It's really about the process. And we are able to make mistakes in a Montessori classroom, and we learn from the mistakes, just like we do in real life, right? A lot of it is hands-on and really learning how to manipulate the different material in the classroom, and really teaching them how to use material the right way, and that way they can learn from it. Better than having to show mom and dad, oh look, this is my painting that I did. Really kind of putting it on, did you enjoy doing that? And encouraging the parents to ask the right questions of, was it fun doing the project that you did, rather than, oh, that's beautiful, the end product of a lesson. So I have here a triangle that is the formation of what we really truly believe is to be the method of how we teach in a classroom. So we have a teacher, we have a child, and we have the environment. So it's all interconnected. The teacher really is the guide in the classroom. We really are not the teacher. It's really almost like we are the guide in the room, if you will. So Montessori believed that the materials are the things that really teach the child. We're the ones who are the guides to the material, and the material then is taught to the child by, of course, the guide. So the teacher is the one who interacts with the child and the material to show them how it works, but the child really learns on their own. So it's really important that the teacher really knows how to use the material, because they're the ones who then show the child how to do it. And then the child is able to go to the environment or the material as they please and as much as they want. We really believe that it's important that a child goes back to do certain lessons over and over again repetitively, so that they can master each concept before moving on to the next activity. A lot of what we do in the classroom is very much a hands-on learning style. So you won't see a lot of paperwork, you won't see a lot of things going home, because it is done in the classroom hands-on. So pictures are very important to send home to the parents, so that they get a glimpse of what is going on in the classroom, what the child is learning. So with wonderful technology and communication, we're able to document and send pictures to the family so they can see what they're learning every day. And we do have several different platforms that we can use that are Montessori based for that as well. And then, you know, the ages for Montessori, so we do have infant, we have toddler, we have primary, as well as elementary education and middle school and high school. But for infant, it is birth through 18 months of age. So it is a mixed age grouping, so that the children all kind of learn from each other, and the older ones really model for the younger ones through observation, and the younger ones are really learning from the older ones are really teaching the younger ones, and the younger ones are really learning from the older ones just by modeling. So it's really peer grouping, which is really nice. And I have had children in the infant program, as well as the toddler program, primary and elementary. My own children have gone through all 4 of those age groups. And then toddler is 18 months to about 3 years of age. And then we also have primary, that is 3 years to 6 years of age. There is elementary, and elementary is a 3-year cycle as well. So there's lower elementary, that is 1st grade through 3rd, and then there's also 3rd grade through 6th grade for elementary. And of course, there is the middle school and high school as well. Today, I'm actually just going to be talking about the primary age group. So in the primary age group, this is the ages 3 to 6. This is actually one of the classrooms in my school that I currently am a part of right now. And so here you can see all the different materials, very natural wood and a lot of hands-on experiences. You'll see rugs here in the corner. We do a lot of floor work as well as table work. So the rugs actually are, there are materials that are actually for the floor specifically, and then there are material that are done specifically on the table as well. So part of that is just the teacher being able to share and model the different activities, so the children do learn on their own where the different lessons need to be done. So the different areas of the classroom, we have our practical life, we have sensorial, we have math, language, and we have a big group here. It's cultural, and that includes the geography, science, botany, zoology, art, and music. So that encompasses everything. When we say cultural, that's all of that. And so it's just subdivided. So we're going to take a little look at what each shelf looks like in a classroom. So I have a couple slides here from my school. And it looks like less is more. So you'll see here on the left, I have a practical life shelf. So these are things that children can choose on their own. As long as they've had a lesson modeled by the teacher, they have the freedom to choose these different lessons as they please. So if they're interested in it, we want them to gravitate towards that. Even if the teacher hasn't had a lesson and the teacher sees that the child's trying to go over there and actually start manipulating it, the teacher might say, well, let me show you that first before, you actually start working on it so that it's modeled correctly. So this might be activities to help strengthen fine motor skills. So it might be spooning, tonguing, you might see tonguing here, bead stringing, things that might help take care of the environment. So you'll see the dustpan here at the bottom. And then over here to the right, you'll see the sensorial shelf. So that, oh, sorry, I apologize. The sensorial shelf has different materials that are also hands-on, which we'll go into a deeper dive in just a moment. But I wanted you to be able to see some of the materials on a sensorial shelf. The brown stairs here is actually an iconic lesson, as well as the red rod and the knob cylinders. And then we have the math shelf over here to the left. And so again, everything is hands-on and very colorful for the children to really want to work with it. And then the right side is our language shelf, one of the language shelves. I would say there are probably about 3 to 4 shelves per area. So there might be 3 shelves of practical life, there might be 3 shelves of sensorial, maybe 4 of math, because math is actually a really large area, and maybe about 3 or 4 of the language, and maybe 3 or 4 of sensorial. I'd say there's anywhere between, it depends on the classroom, there could be about 12 to 14 different shelves for children to choose from. And then, maybe some other additional shelves that the teacher really kind of wants to include, like a piece education shelf. So, practical life. We have practical life. This is actually my daughter here. She's actually doing container activity, which can be done at home or done in the school. So we have 4 areas of practical life, and some of these examples are also included here. The 4 main parts are care of self, care of environment, grace and courtesy, and movement. I would definitely say that grace and courtesy is actually the foundation of the classroom. So this is, of course, how to greet a person. You might have a greeter at the door who is saying hello as children are coming in. And then you might have, lessons on how to sneeze, how to cough, lessons on basic grace and courtesy lessons, how to eat at a table manners, anything that you can think of that might have manners. It really helps the foundation of your classroom and how children are actually treating each other. So grace and courtesy is really important part of practical life. And so the very first few months of school, you kind of focus more on those rules of grace and courtesy and setting those boundaries in the very beginning. And then you have care of self. So a lot of what Montessori truly believed was really children being very independent, like I mentioned before. So learning how to get their own snacks, so maybe food prep activities, dressing frames, like buttoning, zipping, and tying, so they can learn how to do these things and clothe themselves on their own and be more independent. And then pouring and spooning, I think I've mentioned that before. So pouring and spooning, because again, kind of leads into other activities that we have in the classroom. So if they're learning how to pour just like from one cup to another, they're working, of course, on their fine motor skills, but also concentration, their coordination, their hand-eye coordination, and sense of order and independence. But those fine motor skills are actually then applied to maybe the care of environment piece. So a bigger lesson might be, of course, dishwashing or even table washing. So teaching them how to care for the environment and really have a respect for the things that they are working with. And you'll see that the children in the classroom really do have a really profound respect for the things that they're using when you introduce these kinds of things to how to respect the different things in the class. And what's really amazing is that children who really need that sense of movement or who are really active in your classroom, the lessons that have more multiple steps and more of a sequence, they actually tend to gravitate towards those lessons because they get to move more in a more structured way. So teaching how to wash a table and scrub a table, that actually, to be honest with you, is about a 25 step sequence in a Montessori training. So they're really learning the process again over the product. So whether or not the table still has food or not at the very end, yes, of course, the whole point is to learn how to table wash. But you really want them to, there's, indirect purposes of learning how to scrub. So scrubbing in a circular formation kind of gets them ready for handwriting. So they're learning how to, kind of make a shape of a circle, and then learning gross motor skills and strengthening those gross motor skills of not just sitting at a table working on activity. They're up and moving, doing different things sequentially. And this also supports even executive functioning, which is pretty amazing to see. And then, of course, like I mentioned, grace and courtesy is really important. And then, And then movement. So movement, there might be walking the line activity. So this might be like a strip of tape, like electrical tape, right on your floor in the class. And the child might just, on the first day, learn how to walk the line. This might be great for a child who might be 3 years old and they are running from one in the classroom to the other. But you're trying to find activity for them to still move because they're showing you they need to move, but we want them to move in a different way. So teaching them how to walk carefully on a line. So the teacher models, walking heel to foot, heel to foot, heel to foot on the line. And then maybe the next day they're holding a book or holding a tray, and then they're still walking the line. So they're still getting that physical movement, but we're just teaching them how to move in a purposeful way, in a way that we want them to, rather than running across the classroom. That's just one activity of movement. We also do, of course, yoga in the classroom. We offer that as well. Different ways of movement might be even offering snack. Unfortunately, now with COVID, I don't know, that's not really something we're able to really do, but prior to that, we were offering snacks to our friends and going up to them and asking them if they wanted to join them for a snack at the table. So, which was always nice, part of that grace and courtesy as well as the movement. So incorporating a couple of these different areas in practical life is a lot of fun. Sensorial is also a part of the Montessori environment. So children are learning through their senses, and so there are different material that really kind of help aid in that. So they're learning through their visual sense, tactile, auditory, olfactory, and then their gustatory. So with the sense of smell, one of the greatest lessons that I feel like a lot of children really do enjoy is something as simple as smelling bottles. So there is actually a lesson that you can actually create and even use essential oils or different herbs or different spices. So children can learn the different senses, senses and through sense of smell. And then having a picture of what they're smelling, as well as maybe the jar itself. So you can do this with spice jars, like clear recycled spice jar, to maybe just take the label off, so the child is really focusing on the smell, and then labeling and pairing it with what they're smelling. And then they're also learning language a lot through sensorial as well. So a lot of how we teach sensorial is through what we call a 3-period lesson. So the first lesson, the first period is actually naming something. So we might say, what is this is red. Okay, well, let's go based off of color. So we might say, this is red, this is yellow, this is blue. So when teaching the colors, you're naming everything. That's the first lesson. Then the second period would be recognizing it. So you might say, oh, okay, well, can you show me the one that's red? Can you show me the one that is yellow? Can you show me the one that is blue? So you're still naming it, but they're showing it to you. So a lot of the learning takes place in that second period. Then the third period is kind of like testing them. So this is the recall period. And so you're asking, so what is this? They might say, this is red. What is this? Oh, this is yellow. And then you say, what is this? And this is blue. So if they get it mixed up, you just go back to the second period. So a lot of the learning takes place really is in the second period of the lesson. And a lot of the sensorial lessons are using this 3-period lesson. We also teach geometric figures in the sensorial area as well. So you might be teaching them, what the circle is, what the triangle is, what the square is. So then again, you can use, in order to teach them the different shapes, you're using the 3-period lesson. Next, we have math. Our math area is, again, very hands-on learning, and we always teach concrete to abstract. So what's really important is that when you're teaching math, we really teach quantity first before the number symbol. So I might have 1 bean, and I would show them this is 1. The next day I might say, okay, well, I'll show them the number 1 and then pair them together. So that they're learning quantity first before the number symbol and then associating them together. So those are 3 different lessons that we do in our math area. And then, of course, there are many 0 to 10 lessons. We also introduce teen numbers with our teen board and also the tens board. And then there's also, we go into the decimal system, introducing them to golden bead material. So we're teaching them the unit, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands, even as early as 3 or 4 years old. So introducing them to these concepts, they're actually really able to learn numbers fairly quickly, and even do addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division using these materials. What's really important to also remember is that I do have students in a primary classroom for 3 years. So I might have them from when they're 3 all the way till their kindergarten year. So they are learning this over a span of years. This is not just like, I'm having them for just 1 year and then they move on to the next thing, the next teacher. I get to watch them grow and help facilitate that learning as they are interested in it and kind of gravitate toward it. So again, trying to find that sensitive period for when they're wanting to really learn these materials. So then I have language, and in our language area, we do have pre-reading activities because at age 3, we may not have readers at age 3, but there's still a lot of language that children can really learn about. So we might do things that might go together. So you might pair a fork and a spoon, a toothbrush and toothpaste. It might be paintbrush and paint. So these are pictures that they are matching together, so go together. And then there's also opposite. So they're learning maybe over and under, in and out, off and on. So just pictures before they're really able to read, and kind of going over storytelling and getting them to tell you stories. And actually, even if they're not able to write yet, we even do storytelling, so that maybe they find a picture, a cutout of a magazine, and we glue it onto a piece of paper, and I'm writing down the story that they want to be able to tell me. The way that we do introduce letters is through sandpaper letters. So these are actually letters that, like I mentioned before, a lot of Montessori is hands-on experiences. So they're actually tracing the formation of the letter on sandpaper. It is already formatted for the children to trace. So a lot of it is the teacher or the guide modeling it for the children, and then they're practicing it. So you're showing them the formation of like maybe the C, but in Montessori, we actually introduce a phonetic sound before the name of the letter. So we're saying that this is K, and they're feeling it with their fingers and learning the formation as well as hearing the sound. They're hearing it 3 times. And children might be learning this for a matter of weeks. Maybe they come to you already kind of knowing their sounds. It's really impressive when you have a child who comes to you, they're 3 years old and they know all their sounds already because their parents have been working with them. And then I have children who are reading chapter books by the time they leave me. So it's pretty amazing to see what they're really capable of doing from the beginning to the end of their 3-year cycle. We also have, of course, when they learn their phonetic sounds, then you teach them the name of the letter because you don't want them to get confused with them. So once they've mastered it, then you can introduce the name, and they kind of learn the name indirectly anyway because they're seeing it different places. The parents might be talking about it at home. They're hearing the alphabet song. You're singing ABC song with them. So they are getting the name of the letter, but we really want to focus on the phonetic sound because it kind of bridges into the reading piece. And then we have the metal insets. So in one of the first slides I shared with you, there were these insets. They were pink and blue on the language shelf, and they just look like shapes. And so what's really neat about it is that the child can actually go and choose these different shapes, but there's a specific way that we actually introduce the metal insets and how to trace them because it does get them ready for like if I chose the circle, which is usually the first one, I choose a circle metal inset. And so when I'm showing them how to trace it, I don't go clockwise. I actually show them counterclockwise because then I'm introducing the lowercase letter before the uppercase letter in Montessori. So they're seeing the lowercase c with the circle, and then also the lowercase a is also shape of a circle. You start at the circle, and the G and the D. So many different letters that actually lowercase that really kind of start with the shape of a circle. It may not come full circle like a C doesn't come a circle, but you can show them how to practice strengthening their pencil grips using this material. So children really love the metal insects. This is something that they actually become more creative with because you're showing them even like zigzags and horizontal and vertical lines using these metal insects. So there are multiple ways and extensions to do this, but it's a lot of fun for them and very colorful. We'll come up with all sorts of different drawings for you using the metal insects. And sometimes actually like to call the metal insects, which is kind of funny because we talk about insects in class as well. So bridge into reading. So we use the movable alphabet, which is the next slide, which I'll show you. So a lot of what we do with language is we teach, of course, the phonetic sound and lowercase letters because it kind of helps bridge into the reading using the movable alphabet, which is next here. Before I go into that, we do 3-letter phonetic words. We do consonant blends, phonograms, and digraphs, and we do it in that order, just based on their development and what is actually challenging them and what is more difficult so that they're ready to move on to the next step. So it's not always just, quote unquote, I don't like to say it, but like easy work. We're always giving them the next thing so that they're able to continue that level of learning. So we have movable alphabet. This is one variation of what a movable alphabet looks like. There's also wooden letters or plastic letters that have this. And so this actually helps them bridge into reading. And we'll teach them the phonetic words such as maybe cat, bat, hat, fan first. We'll start with the lowercase a sound in the middle. And then kind of go into the other vowels in the middle, and then we have the consonant blends, maybe the EL sound, the ST sound, then we have the phonograms and digraphs that we also get into. Just kind of depends on developmentally where they are, but that's the order. And then we also introduce grammar box. This may not be till a little bit later, and so this might be their kindergarten year, their 3rd year, depending on where they are developmentally. And so we do introduce the nouns, the article, verbs, and adjectives, and other parts of speech. And then, like I mentioned before, we have a cultural section that includes geography, science, botany, zoology, art, and music. And this is actually a lot of fun as well. I love all areas of classroom, but this area has so much, encompasses so much that there's so much to go over. I'm only going to give you just kind of an overview of what we do in the classroom. Like I mentioned, there's like 3 or 4 shelves of different lessons for each of these areas of the classroom. So just keep that in mind. So you're not seeing the whole entire classroom here. So geography, we always start big and work our way in. So we actually teach them what a globe looks like and what happens if you take the globe and cut it in half and then put it flat onto a flat surface, and then you have your world map. So there's a lesson that kind of shows them why the world looks like that, even though there's a sphere, the globe. And so we teach in the world map, we go over the different continents. So there's a world map, then there are continent maps that go into the different countries. So we're teaching them geography, the different names of countries from all over the world. I have 3-year-olds who are mastering different parts of Africa, which is pretty amazing to see because they go home and start talking about Kenya and South Africa. And the parents are like, I want them to teach me. So the parents get really involved, which is a lot of fun. And we talk about the flags from all over the world, animals all over the world. We talk about appreciating different cultures, which is so important right now. Back then, 100 years ago, they were already doing this, and we still feel it's very important today. Because Montessori is over 100 years old. This has been around for many years. We also teach the landmarks all around the world, and of course, tasting different foods. If parents, prior to COVID, parents were actually providing a list of ingredients, and actually, where I live right here in Virginia, we live in such a diverse area. Parents would volunteer. I'd have a volunteer sheet, and parents would sign up every Friday for International Snack. So every Friday was International Snack, and parents were more than happy to come in to volunteer to bring in different foods from around the world. Pretty amazing because children may not want to try it with their parents, but as soon as they're in the classroom, they are trying different foods, which is really cool to see because parents are like, my child would never try that with me. But I'm happy that they're trying it with their friends. So I always thought that was really interesting, and I always loved trying different foods as well. Then we have science, botany, and zoology. And so some of the simple things, part of science, we have simple machines, sink versus float. So just having a simple bowl full of water, and then children being able to see buoyancy and whether, something they get to hypothesize whether they think something's going to actually float or sink, and they get to manipulate this all on their own. And magnetism. So these are just a few things that we do in science. Botany, we really incorporate a lot of nature into the classroom. So not just having a puzzle, but actually like going to get a part, getting a flower and showing them this is the pistil, this is the stamen, these are the petals, this is the stem, these are the leaves. So actually dissecting a flower and then having different kinds of leaves. And luckily here in Virginia, we have so many different trees, and so it's really amazing for the children to go out and find different leaves, bring it back into the classroom, and then pull out our botany cabinet with different kinds of leaves, and they're matching them. So incorporating a lot of what they have in their outside environment and bringing it in is really important, or even vice versa. They might bring the botany cabinet outside, especially even during playtime or even during class time. Some classrooms get to go outside even during classroom time, and it becomes a part of their outdoor learning environment. So it's a lot of fun. Zoology is also part of the Montessori environment. So learning different parts of the mammal, amphibian, reptile, bird, and insect. So they're learning different types of them. They're learning different where they live in the world, maybe even the life cycle. So it's not limited to this by any means. This is just an example of what I have and what we have done in the classroom. But we make a lot of the learning a lot of fun. So There are different ways that we incorporate the learning. We've even had, and I've seen this even in traditional schools as well, having a butterfly garden and watching them, go from a caterpillar to a chrysalis and flying off as a butterfly as soon as it emerges from its chrysalis, which is always a lot of fun. And lastly, here I have Montessori at home. So a lot of parents right now, I'm finding people are actually reaching out about how to incorporate and what to do with their children at home, because a lot of children are at home right now with their parents. So I always tell parents to just incorporate them in their daily activities, such as laundry and folding laundry. And these are just, they seem like chores to us adults, but children love this kind of stuff at this age. They want to do what their parents are doing. So instead of discouraging their children, we actually encourage the children to do the dishwashing, which is, again, a lot of fun. There are bubbles, there's water involved. So loading and unloading the dishwasher, washing the car, gardening and setting the table, cooking with mom or dad, and preparing snacks at home. So these are all things that children would typically do in the classroom. We even have laundry folding in the classroom because we actually use towels to do table washing and dishwashing. And at home, a lot of parents will say, well, a lot of the things are, more for adult size and not for children. Well, you guys might see there are like learning towers that can be sold on Amazon. So I always encourage parents to incorporate a way for children to safely interact with the parents in the kitchen as well. So learning towers are always fun to have. I actually just received one as a gift for the newborn baby, which is a lot of fun. And so I always ask the parents just, incorporate them, because it really does give children that sense of ownership when they're able to complete a task, whether they're at home or at school. And they feel like they're really a part of the family when they're able to help out. And I've seen this with my own children in the school as well as at home. And they have a sense of confidence and sense of pride in themselves, not so much looking for me to be proud of them, but more so for themselves, which is really important to see as children grow up. And then kind of like what I mentioned before, the sequential steps are really important for them to follow to see what happens first, next, and last. Again, process over product. And that is pretty much the what I really try to emphasize with the parents, because growing up and not in a Montessori school myself, my parents are always wanting to know and see the product of my projects. So I wanted to make sure I share that. And then resources here, there are two governing organizations for Montessori. So anyone can say that they are Montessori, but I should share with you that the training, if you are interested in any kind of training, do any Montessori education, make sure that you are finding it on one of these two websites, because they are actually the ones who will say that you are an accredited teacher, as well as through a MACD, which is Montessori accreditation for teacher education. So I really think it's important, if you're going to go through any kind of Montessori training, anyone can say they're Montessori, so just be careful. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. I have my contact information here as well. But these are two great websites if you want to learn more about Montessori education. They are two governing, bigger governing organizations here in the United States. So I wanted to share that with you. And then if you are interested in learning more about Montessori, I have two Instagram accounts that I really have been sharing, especially more so during our time at home. I have my email address here as well. Feel free to reach out. and I'd be happy to go over any more information with you. I kind of had to keep it under a certain amount of time, but I could go on and on about Montessori. I've been teaching for a very long time, and also have my own Montessori family at home. So I really appreciate your time today, and that's all I have.